Jake Morrison stood at his post like a statue. He had been standing in the same spot for 6 hours without moving. His rifle stayed ready in his hands. His eyes watched the empty hallway in front of him. He did not speak. He did not shift his weight. He barely even blinked. The space station around him hummed with quiet activity. Alien crew members walked past him from time to time. They looked at Jake with confusion. Some whispered to each other in their strange languages. They could not understand why the human guard just stood there doing nothing. Jake could hear everything. The soft buzz of the air recycling systems, the distant hum of the engine room, the click of claws on metal floors as the insect-like Threx workers went about their duties. He listened to all of it, but his face showed no expression. Station Omega-7 sat at the edge of known space. It was one of many listening posts that watched for threats coming from the dark between stars. Each alien race contributed something different to the defense network. The crystal beings called Vorthak used their minds to sense danger from far away. The water-breathing Keldon swam through the liquid sections of the station, checking for problems. The bug-like Threx worked together like parts of one big mind. But the humans did something no other race could do. They stood guard in complete silence. Amy Carter walked down the hallway toward Jake. She moved slowly and quietly. When she reached his position, Jake turned his head just slightly toward her. Amy nodded once. Jake nodded back. Without saying a word, Jake stepped aside. Amy took his place at the guard post. Jake walked away to get some rest. The whole exchange took less than 10 seconds. No words were spoken. No reports were given. Amy now knew everything she needed to know about the past 6 hours just from that single nod. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched this scene from a hidden camera in her lab. She had been studying human guards for months. Elena was a scientist who specialized in learning about alien life forms. But now she was trying to understand her own species. Elena had discovered something amazing about humans. They could stay alert and ready for danger during long periods of silence and stillness. Other alien races found this impossible. When they tried to stand guard like humans, they became sick or crazy. The Vorthak were psychic beings made of living crystal. They could read thoughts and sense emotions from great distances. But when they tried to stand silent guard duty, they became mentally ill. The constant silence hurt their minds. They needed to hear thoughts and feelings around them to stay healthy. The Keldon came from ocean worlds. Their bodies needed constant movement to keep their blood flowing properly. If they stood still for more than 2 hours, they started to feel weak and dizzy. Their gills had to keep moving to breathe correctly. The Threx lived as part of a group mind. Each individual bug person was connected to all the others through thought waves. When a Threx guard tried to stand alone in silence, it was like cutting off one finger from a hand. The separated Threx would panic and call out for its brothers and sisters. Elena had run tests on human guards. She measured their heart rates, brain waves, and stress hormones during long watches. The results surprised her. Humans became more alert and focused the longer they stood silent watch. Their reaction times got better. Their senses became sharper. Rick. Barnes was Elena's best test subject. Rick could stand motionless for 12 hours straight. During that time, his pulse stayed steady. His breathing remained calm. His eyes never lost focus. When Elena tested his ability to spot threats, Rick noticed dangers that electronic sensors missed. Elena discovered that humans were not just standing around doing nothing. They were actively listening to the silence itself. Rick could hear the difference between normal silence and threatening silence. He could feel when something was wrong even if he could not see or hear the actual danger. This skill came from humanity's past. Thousands of years ago, early humans had to hunt animals for food. Sometimes they had to wait motionless for hours to catch their prey. Other times they had to hide from dangerous predators. Humans who could not stay silent and still died. Only the ones who mastered this skill survived to have children. Captain Steve Tucker commanded the human guards on Station Omega-7. He had trained dozens of silent sentries over the years. Steve understood that human guards were not just weapons with legs. They were living sensors that could detect things machines could not measure. Steve often told new guards that standing watch was like becoming part of the station itself. A good human sentry could feel the rhythm of the base around them. They learned what normal felt like. When something abnormal happened, they sensed it immediately. The other alien races had tried to copy human guard techniques. The results were always disasters. Vorthak guards would start screaming after a few hours of silence. Keldon sentries would collapse from poor blood flow. Threx guards would abandon their posts to find others of their kind. Only humans could master the art of the silent watch. They turned stillness into a weapon. They made silence into a shield. While other races built bigger sensors and stronger computers, humans used something much older and more reliable. They used the ancient skills that had kept their species alive since the beginning of time. Jake Morrison finished his rest period and prepared for another shift. He checked his rifle and made sure his equipment was ready. In a few minutes, he would return to his post and become a silent guardian once again. He would stand watch over the darkness beyond the station, listening for dangers that only human ears could detect. Ambassador Lisa Park stood before the Galactic Council in their great meeting hall. Hundreds of alien beings from 17 different species filled the chamber, their strange eyes all focused on her. The air hummed with whispered conversations, in dozens of languages she could not understand. Lisa felt nervous, but she kept her face calm. She was here to defend humanity's right to serve as silent guards for the galaxy's defense network. Many council members questioned whether humans were really good enough for this important job. High Counselor Zephyrin rose from his crystal throne. The Vorthak leader's body sparkled with inner light as he spoke. His voice echoed inside Lisa's mind rather than through her ears. All Vorthak communicated through telepathy. Ambassador Park, your species claims special abilities in guard duty, but our observers report that human sentries appear to enter trance states during their watches. How can unconscious beings protect anything? Lisa had expected this question. She stood straighter and spoke clearly so all the aliens could understand her words. Counselor Zephyrin, what you call a trance is actually a state of heightened awareness. Humans call it tactical patience. Our ancestors survived by learning to remain perfectly still while hunting prey or hiding from predators. This skill helped our species survive for thousands of years. The council chamber filled with clicking, buzzing, and chirping sounds as different alien species discussed her words. Lisa could not understand their languages, but she could sense their doubt. A Keldon representative slithered forward on tentacles. His wet skin glistened under the chamber's lights. When he spoke, water droplets sprayed from his mouth. Impossible. My people cannot remain motionless for more than 2 hours without becoming ill. How can your species do what we cannot? Before Lisa could answer, a Threx drone buzzed its wings and spoke in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against metal. The hive mind requires constant communication between individuals. Isolation causes madness in our species. Your human guards work alone for many hours. This should drive them insane. Lisa nodded respectfully to both speakers. She had studied every member species before coming to this meeting. Honored representatives, each species has different needs and abilities. What works for your people may not work for mine. I propose we settle this question with a test. The council chamber grew quiet. Tests were serious business in galactic politics. If humans failed, they would lose their position in the defense network. If they succeeded, the other species would have to accept human abilities as real. High Counselor Zephyrin's crystal body flashed brighter. What kind of test do you propose? Lisa took a deep breath. A 24-hour watch competition. One volunteer from 5 different species will maintain guard positions for a full day. We will measure reaction times, threat detection ability, and psychological stability. The council voted to approve the test. Within a week, the competition was arranged. At a neutral testing facility, Rick Barnes represented humanity. He was a calm man with steady nerves and years of guard experience. The other competitors included Keldon Warrior Wet Scale Swimming, Threx Scout Designation 47 Alpha, Vorthak Psychic Mind Crystal Bright, and a robotic unit called Nexus Prime from the Mechanical Collective. The testing chamber was designed to be as boring as possible. Each guard stood in an identical room with gray walls, dim lighting, and no decorations. Hidden sensors would measure their vital signs and attention levels throughout the 24-hour period. Dr. Helen Foster observed the test from the control room. She was an expert on human psychology and had helped design the experiment. Helen watched, the monitors showing each competitor's condition. After 2 hours, wet-scale swimming began to show problems. The Kelden's blood pressure dropped as his circulation slowed from lack of movement. His gills fluttered rapidly as he struggled to breathe properly while standing still. At 4 hours, wet-scale swimming collapsed. Medical teams rushed in to help him. The Kelden warrior had to withdraw from the test. Scout 47 Alpha lasted 6 hours before the isolation drove him to panic. The Threx drone began clicking and buzzing frantically, calling for contact with the hive mind. When no answer came, he started running in circles around his room. The test supervisors had to remove him before he hurt himself. Mind Crystal Bright held out for 8 hours. The Vorthak psychic's crystal body grew dimmer as the silence affected his mental health. Vorthak needed constant psychic contact with other minds to stay stable. The empty silence of the test chamber slowly drove him mad. His crystal form began to crack from stress, and the medical team was forced to end his participation. Even Nexus Prime, the robot, had problems. The mechanical being required regular diagnostic cycles to check its systems. These interruptions broke its concentration and affected its guard performance. After 16 hours, the robot's threat detection scores began to drop significantly. Rick Barnes stood perfectly still through all 24 hours. His heart rate remained steady, his breathing stayed calm. His eyes never lost focus. When the test supervisors introduced fake threats into his environment, Rick spotted them faster than any of the other competitors had. Captain Steve Tucker watched Rick's performance with pride. Steve had trained many human guards, but Rick was one of the best. Throughout the entire test, Rick never moved from his position. He never spoke or made any sound. But Steve could tell that Rick was completely aware of everything around him. When the test ended, Rick's reaction time scores had actually improved over the 24-hour period. His threat detection ability was sharper at the end than it had been at the beginning. The alien observers could not believe the results. Dr. Foster explained Rick's success to the amazed council members. Sergeant Barnes was not simply standing still. He was actively listening to his environment. Humans can detect changes in air pressure, temperature, humidity, and electromagnetic fields that indicate potential threats. The test proved what humans had claimed all along. They possessed unique abilities that made them perfect for silent guard duty. Where other species saw emptiness and boredom, humans saw opportunity and vigilance. High Counselor Zephrin's crystal form pulsed with confused lights. "We do not understand how this is possible. Your species appears to gain strength from isolation and silence." Lisa Park smiled. "Counselor, humans learned long ago that sometimes the best way to protect something is to become perfectly still and listen to what the silence tells you." The Galactic Council voted unanimously to grant humans exclusive rights to serve as silent guards throughout the defense network. No other species could match their natural ability to remain alert during long periods of stillness and quiet. Dr. Helen Foster stood at the center of the Galactic Scientific Consortium's main auditorium. Thousands of alien scientists filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a sea of strange shapes and colors. Some floated in the air, others clung to the walls, and many sat in specially designed chairs that fit their unusual bodies. Helen felt small among all these brilliant alien minds, but she had important information to share. The consortium had asked her to explain why humans were so different from other species when it came to guard duty and silent watching. She activated the holographic projector and began her presentation. Images of human evolution appeared in the air above the audience. "Most species develop communication as their main way to survive," Helen explained. "You talk to each other, share thoughts, or work together as groups. Humans learned something different. We learned to get information from things that were not there." The alien scientists clicked, buzzed, and chirped as they discussed her words. Helen could see confusion on many faces. She continued with her explanation. "Humans can detect threats not by what they see or hear, but by what they do not see or hear. A bird that suddenly stops singing, a small change in air temperature, the tiny vibration of footsteps through solid ground. A Vorthak scientist's crystal body flashed with questions. Dr. Foster, this seems impossible. How can absence of information provide information? Helen smiled. She had hoped someone would ask this question. Let me give you an example. Imagine you walk through a forest every day for years. You know exactly what sounds you should hear at each time of day. Birds singing in the morning, insects buzzing at noon, small animals moving through the bushes at night. If one day the birds suddenly become quiet, you know something dangerous has entered the forest. The silence tells you more than any sound could. The audience grew quiet as they thought about her words. Helen could see understanding beginning to dawn on some faces. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Phillips had developed the training program for human silent guards. He called his methods combat meditation, but it was very different from the meditation practiced by other species. Dan trained his students at a special facility on Earth. The training grounds looked empty to visiting aliens, but Dan saw them as perfect learning environments. He had spent years studying how to turn silence and stillness into weapons. We do not empty our minds like other species do when they meditate, Dan explained to a group of alien military observers. We fill our minds with awareness. We listen to everything around us and learn what normal sounds like. Then we can instantly detect when something becomes abnormal. The alien observers watched as Dan demonstrated his techniques. He stood perfectly still in the center of a training room. His students had hidden small devices around the area that made tiny sounds or created slight changes in air pressure. Dan found every hidden device without moving from his spot. He pointed them out one by one, explaining how he had detected each. 1. The device behind the north wall creates a small vibration in the floor. The one near the ceiling changes the way air moves through the room. The third device makes a sound so quiet that electronic sensors cannot hear it, but human ears can. Major Kate Lewis was one of Dan's best students. She had developed her silent watching skills to an amazing level. Kate could detect the presence of enemies that were completely invisible to all known technology. During a demonstration, Kate stood guard while a team of engineers tried to sneak past her using advanced stealth suits. The suits made them invisible to human eyes and electronic sensors. They blocked heat signatures and muffled all sounds. Kate detected all 6 engineers before they got within 50 feet of her position. She never moved or spoke, but she somehow knew exactly where each hidden person was located. After the demonstration, the alien observers demanded to know how Kate had accomplished this impossible task. Kate tried to explain, but her words seemed like magic to the alien scientists. I listen to the air, Kate said simply. When people move through space, they push air around. The stealth suits can hide the people, but they cannot hide the way air moves. I felt the small changes in air pressure and temperature that the hidden people created as they walked. The alien military leaders were amazed. Their species used advanced computers, psychic powers, or group thinking to detect enemies. Humans had developed something that seemed almost supernatural. Dr. Kevin Walsh studied the psychological aspects of human silent watching. He had spent years trying to understand how human minds worked during long guard duties. Kevin discovered that human guards did not just stand around waiting for something to happen. Their minds became highly active during silent watches. They processed thousands of small environmental signals at the same time. A human guard on duty is like a living computer that analyzes environmental data, Kevin explained to the scientific consortium. But unlike a computer, the human mind can understand the meaning behind patterns that machines cannot recognize. Kevin showed brain scans of humans during guard duty. The images revealed intense neural activity in areas of the brain responsible for pattern recognition and threat assessment. Other species see an empty hallway and think nothing is happening, Kevin continued. A human guard sees the same empty hallway and notices that the air circulation sounds slightly different than yesterday. This small change might indicate that someone has modified the ventilation system. The human guard becomes suspicious and investigates. Commander Julie Adams had commanded human guard units for 15 years. She understood better than anyone how unique her species was. Julie often told new guards that they were not just watching for enemies. They were becoming part of the environment itself. A good human sentry could feel the heartbeat of the base or ship they were protecting. "We do not stand guard," Julie explained to a group of alien military students. "We merge with our surroundings and let them speak to us. The building, the ship, the station becomes part of our body. When something changes, we feel it immediately." The WAM. Alien students found this concept very difficult to understand. Their species relied on external tools to extend their senses. Humans had learned to extend their senses through pure mental discipline. The scientific consortium finally began to understand why humans were unique. While other species had evolved better technology or stronger psychic abilities, humans had developed something much more basic and powerful. They had learned to communicate with emptiness itself. They found wisdom in silence and meaning in stillness. This ancient skill, developed over millions of years of evolution, made humans the perfect guardians for a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. The alien scientists agreed that humanity's contribution to galactic defense was invaluable. No other species could match the human ability to detect threats through environmental awareness and silent observation. Alex Chen stood at his guard post on Outpost Delta 12, watching the empty corridor that stretched out before him. He had been standing in the same position for 8 hours. His rifle remained ready in his hands. His eyes scanned the hallway without blinking. The outpost sat at the very edge of known space, far from any inhabited worlds. It was one of dozens of listening posts that watched for threats from the dark regions beyond the galaxy. Most days were quiet and boring. Today felt different. Alex could not explain what was wrong, but something was definitely not right. The air circulation system hummed at exactly the same frequency as always. The lights cast the same shadows on the metal walls. The temperature readings showed normal levels, but Alex's instinct screamed that danger was nearby. For the past 3 weeks, strange reports had been coming in from frontier outposts. Guards reported feeling watched, but security cameras showed nothing. Sensors detected brief anomalies that vanished before they could be analyzed. Several bases reported minor equipment failures and unexplained power fluctuations. The Galactic Defense Alliance had investigated these incidents, but found no evidence of enemy activity. The Vorthak psychics sensed nothing unusual. Electronic surveillance systems showed no intruders. Even the advanced quantum sensors failed to detect any threats. But human guards throughout the sector reported the same feeling. Something was out there, watching and waiting. Alex felt a tiny change in the air temperature near his left shoulder. The difference was less than half a degree, so small that electronic sensors would ignore it. But Alex had been standing guard for 5 years. He knew what normal felt like, and this was not normal. The environmental systems were working perfectly. There was no reason for a temperature change in that specific spot, unless something invisible was standing next to him, breathing and generating body heat. Alex did not move or speak. He did not turn his head or change his expression, but he activated the emergency alert system with a single thought. A tiny implant in his brain sent a coded message to the command center. Hostile presence detected. Captain Laura King received Alex's alert in the command center. She trusted her human guards completely. If Alex said there was a threat, then there was a threat, even if every machine in the base said otherwise. Laura immediately dispatched her response team to Alex's position. They moved quietly through the corridors, carrying sensors and weapons. When they reached Alex's location, they found traces of advanced technology that should not have existed. The team discovered microscopic particles of exotic matter that suggested the use of sophisticated cloaking devices. They found tiny disruptions in the metal floor that indicated someone had been standing there. Most importantly, they detected residual energy signatures from technology far more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed. Someone had been watching Alex, and that someone had vanished the moment they realized they had been detected. Over the next few days, similar incidents occurred at 17 different outposts. Human guards detected the presence of invisible intruders that no technology could find. Each time, the mysterious visitors disappeared as soon as they were discovered. Lieutenant Colonel Roy Davis commanded the defense of the entire sector. He had 47 human guards under his command, spread across 23 different bases. Roy began to see a pattern in the reports. The invisible intruders were conducting systematic reconnaissance of Alliance defenses. They were studying guard positions, sensor placements, and security protocols. This was not random exploration. This was preparation for an invasion. Roy sent urgent reports to Alliance Command, but the alien leadership found his conclusions hard to believe. How could an enemy conduct surveillance operations that defeated all known detection systems? How could human guards succeed where advanced technology failed? The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Nancy Scott was commanding the sector fleet when long-range sensors detected a massive alien force approaching from unknown space. The fleet was enormous, bigger than anything the Alliance had ever seen. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation, their technology unlike anything in Alliance databases. When Admiral Scott tried to contact the unknown fleet, she received a surprising response. The aliens wanted to talk. The lead ship transmitted a message in perfect Alliance standard language. "We are the Umbral Collective. We come to negotiate the terms of your surrender." Admiral Scott was confused. "Surrender? We are not at war with you." The alien commander's reply sent chills through the Alliance leadership. "We have been studying your defenses for months. We know the location of every base, every sensor, every weapon. Your resistance will be brief and pointless." But the Umbral commander seemed puzzled about something. "However, your silent watchers present a problem we did not anticipate. We cannot understand how they detect our presence." The Umbral Collective had spent decades perfecting their invasion technique. They would send invisible scouts to study their targets for months or years. The scouts used technology that rendered them undetectable to all known sensors. They would map every defense, identify every weakness, and plan the perfect attack. This strategy had worked perfectly against dozens of other civilizations. The Umbral forces had conquered entire star systems without their victims ever knowing they were being watched. But humanity's silent guards had ruined their perfect plan. Kevin Walsh was the Alliance's expert on human psychology. He explained the situation to the Umbral commander during the negotiations. "Your cloaking technology defeats machines and psychic senses, but it cannot fool human environmental awareness. Our guards detect your presence through methods you cannot understand or counter." The Umbral commander was a being of pure energy that spoke through electronic devices. Its voice carried frustration and confusion. "We have studied your detection methods extensively. You use no technology. You employ no psychic abilities. Yet your watchers perceive us through means we cannot identify." Kevin tried to explain. "Humans evolved on a dangerous world where survival required detecting the presence of hidden predators. We learned to sense threats through tiny changes in our environment. Your scouts may be invisible, but they still displace air, generate heat, and create vibrations when they move." The Umbral Collective had never encountered a species with such abilities. Their advanced technology could fool any machine, but it could not eliminate the basic physical effects of their presence. Human guards detected these subtle environmental changes through instincts developed over millions of years of evolution. Rick Barnes had been one of the guards who detected Umbral scouts. He tried to describe the experience to Alliance scientists. "It was like feeling someone watching you in a dark room. You cannot see them or hear them, but you know they are there. The air feels different when someone else is breathing it. The temperature changes when another body is nearby." The Umbral invasion plans were completely ruined. They could not conduct surprise attacks against targets defended by human guards. Their perfect cloaking technology had been defeated by something as simple as human intuition. Faced with the failure of their reconnaissance mission, the Umbral Collective agreed to negotiate a peace treaty instead of launching their invasion. They had learned that some problems could not be solved with advanced technology. The crisis proved that humanity's contribution to galactic defense was more valuable than anyone had realized, while other species built better weapons and stronger shields. Humans provided something irreplaceable: the ability to sense danger that existed beyond the reach of any machine. The great conference hall aboard Admiral Nancy Scott's flagship buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 17 different Alliance species had gathered to witness something that had never happened before. Peace negotiations with the Umbral Collective. Admiral Scott felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The Umbral fleet still hung in space just outside the system, hundreds of ships that could destroy everything the Alliance had built. But instead of fighting, both sides had agreed to talk. The Umbral representative materialized in the center of the room as a shimmering column of dark energy. When it spoke, its voice came from speakers throughout the hall, carrying a strange electronic tone that made everyone uncomfortable. "I am Voidwalker Prime, commander of the Umbral Invasion Force. We have come to understand your surrender terms." "Admiral," Scott stood up from her chair. "Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. We are here to discuss peace, not surrender." The energy being pulsed with darker colors. "Your resistance is pointless. We have studied your defenses for months. Every base, every sensor, every weapon is known to us. No civilization has ever withstood our invasion methods." Dr. Kevin Walsh stepped forward. He had been chosen to explain humanity's unique abilities to the Umbral commander. Kevin had spent his entire career studying what made humans different from other species. "Commander, your scouts failed to complete their mission. Our human guards detected them at 17 different locations. Your perfect surveillance was discovered and defeated." Voidwalker Prime's energy form flickered with confusion. "Impossible. Our cloaking technology renders us undetectable to all known sensor systems. We have tested it against thousands of different species across hundreds of star systems." Kevin activated a holographic display showing brain scans of human guards on duty. "Commander, humans do not rely on sensor systems to detect threats. We use something much older and more reliable." The alien representatives in the hall leaned forward to listen. Even after years of working with humans, many species still did not fully understand human abilities. Kevin continued his explanation. "Humans evolved on a world filled with dangerous predators. Our ancestors survived by learning to detect the presence of hidden threats through environmental awareness. We sense changes in air pressure, temperature, humidity, and electromagnetic fields that indicate something foreign has entered our space." "Commander." Julie Adams had been brought to the negotiations as an expert on human guard techniques. She stood up to address the Umbral commander directly. "Your scouts may have been invisible to our eyes and our machines, but they could not hide their physical presence from our environment. When your people moved through our bases, they displaced air, generated body heat, and created tiny vibrations in solid surfaces. Our guards felt these changes and knew something was wrong. Voidwalker Prime processed this information for several long moments. When it spoke again, its voice carried a tone of grudging respect. "We have conquered 47 star systems using our surveillance methods. No species has ever detected our scouts during reconnaissance operations. Yet your primitive biological sensors succeeded where advanced technology failed." Admiral Scott saw an opportunity to build understanding between the two sides. "Commander, humans are not primitive. We have simply developed different abilities than other species. Our strength comes from working with our environment rather than trying to control it." Lieutenant Colonel Dan Phillips had trained hundreds of human guards over the years. He understood better than anyone what made his species unique. Dan stepped forward to offer his perspective. "Commander, your people have mastered technology that can fool machines and psychic abilities. But you cannot fool the basic laws of physics. When your scouts moved through our bases, they created physical effects that human senses can detect." The Umbral commander seemed fascinated by this explanation. Its energy form shifted colors as it processed the implications. "Your species has evolved biological sensors that operate outside technological parameters. This explains why our countermeasures failed. We designed our cloaking systems to defeat artificial detection methods." Dr. Helen Foster had studied human evolution for decades. She had been brought to the negotiations to explain how humans had developed their unique abilities. "Commander, most species develop technology to extend their natural senses. Humans developed the ability to use their existing senses in ways that other species cannot imagine. We learned to extract information from the absence of expected stimuli. Voidwalker Prime's energy form grew brighter as understanding dawned. You detect threats, not by what you perceive but by what you do not perceive. A sound that should be present but is missing. A temperature that should be constant but changes slightly. Helen nodded. Exactly. Human guards become part of the environment they are protecting. They learn what normal feels like in that space. When something abnormal enters, they sense it immediately. The negotiations continued for hours as both sides worked to understand each other. The Umbral Collective had never encountered a species that could defeat their methods through pure biological ability. Captain Steve Tucker commanded the guard unit that had first detected Umbral scouts. He tried to describe the experience from a soldier's perspective. Commander, when your scouts entered our bases, they were like stones dropped into still water. They created ripples that spread through the environment. Our guards felt those ripples and knew something foreign was present. The Umbral commander finally began to understand why their invasion plans had failed. Your guards function as living sensor arrays that cannot be fooled or defeated through technological means. They detect our presence through methods we cannot counter or understand. Admiral Scott saw that the moment was right to propose a solution that would benefit both sides. Commander, the Umbral Collective has advanced technology that could benefit the Alliance. In return, we could share our knowledge of biological detection methods. Perhaps we can find ways to work together instead of fighting. The negotiations resulted in an unprecedented agreement. The Umbral Collective would abandon their invasion plans and instead become trading partners with the Alliance. In exchange, they would share their advanced cloaking technology for peaceful purposes. But the most important outcome was the formal recognition of humanity's unique contribution to galactic security. The Galactic Council passed a resolution declaring that silent watch duty belonged exclusively to human guards. High Counselor Zephyrin of the Vorthak spoke for the entire council. We now understand that humanity provides something irreplaceable to our common defense. While we have built machines to extend our senses, humans have learned to use their natural abilities in ways we cannot match. Rick Barnes returned to his guard post on Station Omega-7 with new respect from his alien colleagues. The other species finally understood that human guards were not just standing around doing nothing. They were performing the most sophisticated detection work in the known galaxy. As Rick took his position for another silent watch, he felt the familiar calm that came with the job. He would stand motionless for hours, listening to the silence and feeling the rhythm of the station around him. Other species might build better weapons or faster ships, but only humans could master the ancient art of standing guard in perfect silence. They had turned stillness into strength and made quiet watchfulness into the galaxy's most effective defense system. The stars continued to shine in the darkness beyond the station, but Rick knew that human guards would always be there to watch over them, standing silent and alert in the spaces between worlds.